YouTube? Is it a good thing? I think it's kind of an important question to ask. I have come to the realization that I'm, addicted to YouTube effectively, and have been for a number of years. I'm not even sure when I started on YouTube, maybe at the age of 15 or something like that. When I was quite impressionable. No, younger than that even, definitely younger. Maybe 12 or something. So it's been, 10 years since I've been on YouTube. And have I done anything productive with that time? Not particularly. My time on the internet in general has not been spent, in a particularly productive way. I'm trying to do that now, or at least shift that addiction from, useless gaming videos and, other kind of YouTube celebrities and things like that in terms of, personality and, clickbait videos, just in terms of something more tangible, more useful. And so I've kind of shifted my addiction in terms of now just watch a load of investing videos, which is definitely a bit better, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem of just being addicted to new videos that are coming out. The constant attention that's clamoring for you on YouTube in terms of thumbnails and things like that. But is it actually a good thing? Can it be used for good? I think you can kind of compare it to TV, just in terms of, there are TV channels, vying for your attention. You can choose to interact with any of them. And yes, theoretically, you could spend all day watching, nature documentaries and, documentaries on economics and things like that. Stuff that is practical and useful in the real world. But what do most people do? They watch, the news, which is, very short-term and sensationalized. And they watch, whatever the latest reality TV show is. Obviously, that's not all people. And I'm not suggesting it is, but it's just a, sort of median thing of what most people do with their time. They waste it, and I do as well. And I'm trying to get away from that. But, so obviously I think some people do get a benefit out of YouTube, but I think the vast majority probably don't. And I'm in that category, where for so many years of my life, I dread to even think how many thousands of hours I've wasted on there, and how much time has actually been put forward in a productive way in terms of learning things about the world. So I think it can be a fantastic asset for kids and children to use, basically, but whether it actually does what it sort of is promising, most kids, I don't think it will. Certainly you have a problem with even younger and younger people coming online and being introduced from it by their parents from such a young age. And if they were to have some discipline properly instilled in them that I didn't have when I was younger, I think you could have generations of people with so much, potential and knowledge that it would just be completely outstanding. But I don't think that's the way it will be used at all. I think it, will be used, you have YouTube channels which are focused on kids and things like that, and just draw them in with the exact same addiction patterns that you do with teenagers and, everyone else for that matter, in terms of TV and stuff like that. So I don't see it being any different at all, which is a real shame, because you have some amazing channels on there in terms of educational content. Stuff like, I guess like SciShow and things like that I used to watch when I was a bit younger. And, maybe Kurzgesagt as well, which does some really great animations and, puts some real world stuff in a great perspective, an easy way to understand it. So, there are certainly so many things which are great about YouTube, but so many ways it's so easy to fall into the addiction of it. And once you're in there, how do you get out? I think once your brain sort of develops an addiction, it's very hard to overcome it. Often the way you do things is, instead of overcoming it, you actually just replace it with something else. And so that's kind of how I've been replacing my, addiction in terms of random videos, to try and focus it on investment things and stuff that might actually be useful for my day-to-day life. But it just shows you, I guess, the power of these things, that once it's in your brain, it's really difficult to get it out. And what do you even do in that perspective? It's got a hold of you. You're, in a way, a slave, and unless you just go cold turkey, which you could in these days, but it would be very hard to go without. Well, I don't know. Would it be hard to just drop the phone, drop the computer? This is the problem. At least with the TV, you have to walk over to it. If it's on the internet and you're on work, it's literally like a click. Open a new browser, type in YouTube, you're there, bam, and the addiction is, running again in your mind. So how do we even break out of it? Is it even worth doing, or do you just replace it with something else? I don't know. It's a tough question, and I speak as someone who's wasted. I've probably spent like a year, more than a year, definitely like 2, 3, call it 3 years maybe, like sat in a computer, like watching YouTube. You could sit me down 24 hours a day for 3 years, and that's probably how much YouTube I've watched. I reckon that's maybe about right. And so I guess it just puts it in perspective, like the amount of time that you're using and completely wasting. And me, and do we really have that much time left? I don't think we do. I'm 23 already, and I feel like a lot of the years have been wasted. And I look back at some of the people I knew in university, who are about 26, because I knew some people who were older, and I just think that's me in 3 years. I was 20. That's the amount of time difference between 26 and 23, and it's just mind-boggling. Like, what am I going to do in 3 years to be where I want to be? What I actually want to be is a different question, and something I think I need to work out. I think it's just very difficult today, and I really sympathise with young people trying to grow up in these times, especially with parents. Like, what do you do if your kid wants a cell phone at age 8, 10? What do you say to them when all their other friends have one? I think it's pretty difficult to even decide what to do in terms of, what do you do with access to the internet with your kids? I think my parents handled it kind of okay in terms of just giving me a computer, a family computer that we all had, so I didn't, I wasn't absorbed on it 24/7, sorry. But I didn't have a phone until I was like 13, and of course it wasn't a smartphone. I didn't get this smartphone that could even like do anything with the internet until like maybe age 20. So like I've been spared the worst of it in terms of social media and stuff like that. And that's another killer. I don't even, it's so difficult to even imagine how much it changes growing up to have a smartphone. And in terms of, being exposed to social media, likes, dislikes, and totally ruining people, young girls especially, because they're more susceptible to that negative emotion that comes from the downsides of social media, in terms of just, virtual bullying and stuff like that. So, really a completely horrible scenario all round. And whether it can be used for good is not the question, I think. I think the question is whether we are wise enough to use it for good, and wise enough as people to, instill our children with a sense that we should be, that we should be responsible for it, and sort of managing that for them. So, just a really, really difficult scenario, and I would not want to be a parent right now. Maybe it'll get better when we get older and I decide to settle down and have kids, but probably not. It'll probably get even worse. There'll probably be even more social media platforms and addictions drilled into your brain, just to make you a slave to the algorithm even more. So those are my thoughts really. And it's difficult growing up. It's very difficult to be addicted, and we are setting kids up, I think, for addiction in the future with the way we understand technology and don't do enough as people and as parents especially. I think that's a real big disappointment, to be honest. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts, my rambling thoughts. Good to get them out. I'm certain it can be an extremely transformative thing, the internet in general, and a way for people to amass so much knowledge that they couldn't otherwise, through so many generations. But it leads people to become, unskilled in social scenarios. Me especially, I never learned how to do that very well, partly because I was always on the computer, not outside with friends, and just unskilled in terms of like real like man handling practical stuff. That's a real terrible thing, I think, to be honest. And calling a mechanic who's 60 is difficult.